Welcome to Real Estate Explained, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass to the ever-evolving world of real estate. I'm your host, Nick Bush, a realtor with over a decade of experience helping clients buy, sell, and invest with confidence. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about the market, this show is for you. Each week, we'll dive into trending topics, break down the latest real estate news, and bring you expert interviews with the pros so you're prepared for every step of the journey. Ready to turn your real estate goals into reality? Keep watching. So I'm gonna come out, bro. Let me know when the next fight is, bro. I've been trying to get to a boxing match, and bring the wife and just make it like a vibe.
I'm telling you, man, you'll have a good time. If you've never been to a boxing fight, there's nothing like it. I mean, especially when you know the people involved, right? There's emotional attachment. You're rooting for them. There's people you love, you care about, and it's a good time, man. He's going for his Eric Hernandez will be going for his 13th professional victory, and we feel very confident that we're going to keep climbing up the ranks, man.
That's good, man. Good luck. I hope you do, man.
Yeah,
so I can say he becomes Freddie Roach, and I know those guys. What would you call your boxing promotion company? Well, what is it called? Do you have a company?
I'm just his trainer.
Okay.
I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not
promoting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a promoter. I'm not a manager. I'm simply his trainer. My responsibility is to get him ready. And that's what I'm doing. He's 12-1 as a professional. So
is he doing your thing?
April 12th.
Have you been around for all 13 of those fights?
No, so I actually took over his career for his last 3 fights. So he had a bit of a layoff, if you will, and we made a return back in 2022, and we've been rocking and rolling. So.
Okay, cool. I have 3 boys, so I also have 3 kids. I have a 14-year-old. He's already 6 feet. 6 feet tall, 200. He's a football player. But I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I had my 5-year-old in jiu-jitsu for a little while, and then he just kind of burnt out. He didn't want to do it anymore. But my 2-year-old is the rough rider. And I'm always just, I just know that that foundational, even though in jiu-jitsu, but I'm more interested in boxing.
Yeah.
So when if you end up creating some boxing gym, whatever, I'm gonna send my kids over there. So
that's the long-term vision, man. I always tell my wife, I tell my brother, hey, I'm going to be involved in boxing, whether it's me training, whether it's opening my own gym. It'll always be a part of my life. My daughter's actually, it's funny you say that. My oldest is 6, my middle is 5. They both wrestle. They're both wrestle. Yeah, we take it seriously, man. They're going in there 3 times a week, and we don't miss, and I make sure they're eating right. And, of course, they do enjoy it. And I make sure it's fun for them, but yeah, man, they're wrestling.
That's great, man. Yeah. So we got Matthew Abregu on the podcast today.
Appreciate it.
Funny story. His Instagram is Matthew Abregu, and I knew that wasn't his name because he always references Matthew, and I was like, so I had I had Diego in here earlier, your brother. And I asked him, I was like, is your brother's name Matthew or Mateo? And he's like, it's Matthew, bro. Everyone calls him Matthew. And so I'm thinking that okay, Mateo's your legal name. Yeah. And you just tell me your legal name is also Matthew. So it's hilarious that your IG doesn't match up with that.
Yeah, no, that's funny. Yeah, so it's a nickname of mine. Like I said, a lot of my wife's family, all of my wife's family, they call me Mateo. But yeah, my legal name is Matthew.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And so introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, so my name is Matthew Abregu. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams. First and foremost, hey, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a businessman, I'm in real estate. I have driving school as well, and I like to consider myself in a way of responsible Renaissance man, if you will.
Okay, what does that mean? You got to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I have a lot of, I guess you can say, on my plate, right? I have a fighter I trained that we were just discussing, but I enjoy the grind, man. I enjoy working hard. It comes natural to me. I'm not saying it's easy, but I do enjoy the grind. And running a real estate business, running a driving school, trying to be the best husband, the best father I can be. I still got a fighter I'm training, right? I wear a lot of hats, but I enjoy every single one of them, and I take every single one of them. I'm dedicated 100% to every single one of them.
Yeah,
right?
And you and your brother, you guys you have a real estate team together.
Correct. So, he'll have clients that he works. I'll have clients that I work. We'll have clients that we both work mutually. And he services Maryland, Virginia. I service Virginia and West Virginia. There's times where we'll take on a Virginia client together. There's times where I have a client here that was looking at Virginia, West Virginia, but now they're exploring Maryland. I'll pass them over to my brother Diego. So we have a very good chemistry. We've done everything together. We've grew up together. We've actually, My wife got him his first job.
Wow.
He worked at the restaurant. We worked at the restaurant together. We were working at LA Boxing together before LA Boxing is no longer around. But we've done everything together. So
Yeah,
it's
so
no
you guys are
surprise
really
here. Yeah, we've always worked very
Yeah.
well together. We've never had an issue where I know there's the saying goes that in some cases families can't work well together, right? They're bump heads. That's never been the case for us.
I think it helps when both people are like, look, bro, I know y'all like, look, bro, like, I can fight too, bro.
Yeah.
You know, have you guys sparred each other before?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny because anytime people see us spar, they would make the joke, man, I would never believe you guys are brother the way you guys are hitting each other, right?
Yeah.
But it's always love afterwards, right? We'd always make sure we're trying to help one another get better. You know, I'd push him, he'd push me. But that's all it was, man. We were always very competitive. Though growing up, you know, sometimes we would put hands on each other when we were playing basketball, and it'd get very physical. But nevertheless, I love my brother. Of course. No secret there.
So did you get into real estate? Did you guys get into real estate around the same time?
Actually, no. He's been in the business for, I'm gonna say 8 years now. I'm going on my 5th year.
Okay.
It's funny, actually. We make this joke every once in a while. When I bought my first home back in 2016, and at the time, I remember my brother telling me, hey, he wasn't an agent at this time. He said, hey, you sure this is a good idea, man? Are you sure you can handle it? I said, hey, you know, I can do it right now.
I got this, bro.
Yeah. And nevertheless, I bought my first property in 2016. So I was, we come from a family of real estate, right? My grandpa, he was actually a broker. My uncle was a real estate agent. Diego, he's a realtor as well. My mother, actually, she was a loan officer. You know, we've been through the ups and downs of real estate. My mother bought and sold before. We've been through the ups and downs. 2008, right? We fortunately during that time we did get foreclosed on, right? Yeah. So when people talk about 2008, I understand. I even though I was young at the time, I
experienced it,
of course, right, firsthand. So, you know, I'm a homeowner right now. We're all homeowners in our family. Thank God. I truly believe in home ownership, and so I definitely am very passionate about real estate. I'm
okay, so you actually have a lot of experience growing up. Do you feel like you have some of that, you know, is it in you? Like some of the nuance of real estate is in you because of that experience?
Absolutely. I always say, I joke around, but I really mean it. It's in my blood. I'm passionate about real estate. I love I love what I do. I believe in home ownership. So to me, I don't feel like I'm a salesman because I'm really, even though, you know, we're in the business of sales, of course, but I do believe in my product. I do believe home ownership at the end of the day. The stats are there, right? That's how true wealth is built, through home ownership.
Yeah. You know, when buyers come to me, you know, home buyers that are kind of on the fence, or generational renters, people who don't have a lot of home ownership in their family, and maybe they're the first one, or just cautious people, right? And they're like, well, what if I buy and the market crashes, right? And I tell them, I say, hey, at some point the market is going to crash. And the reason I say that is because the stock market always crashes, right? It's going to crash. The housing market has crashed more than once in America. Our country's kind of set up that these corrections are going to happen, right? And I let them know, I say, hey, like if the market crashes, one is going to come back. We know that's going to happen. If you don't have to sell, you're going to be in good shape. And because you can just wait it out. And if you can rent it out for more than it's worth, or just, you know, manage that, then you're going to be set. But you've dealt with foreclosure personally in your family, and you've had, you know, your uncle's a realtor, your mom's a loan officer. So what is the reality of the comeback when you deal with a foreclosure in a market crash?
So, to clarify, my mother was a loan officer. My grandpa was a broker, right? Yeah. You know, you can't worry about those kind of things, right? You know, I do think the real question is, are you personally ready to buy, right? Because the market will correct. I do think we're going through a crash right now. Actually, you know, I've been talking about being in a crash since 2022. However, it's not in prices. It's in transactions. We have seen... transactions are at a historic low, right? You have homeowners that are willing to sell because they don't want to give up their low monthly mortgage, right? And you got, that's just what we're experiencing. We're experiencing a real estate transaction crash right now. You just can't worry about these things. At the end of the day, if you're comfortable with that monthly mortgage payment, long term, as you just mentioned, real estate, at the end of the day, you're still 10 years from now, you're going to be fine. Now, when I have buyers telling me, if you're going to come up to me and tell me, hey, Matthew, I want to buy and potentially sell in 2 years, I'm going to be transparent with you. Hey, in most cases, that does not work, right? Real estate takes time. Everything takes time. Stock market, true wealth is built with time. So if you're going to tell me, hey, Matthew, I want to buy, but I'm thinking of selling in 2 years. Hey, it may not make sense right now to buy at this very moment, because what we saw during the pandemic, 2020, big run up of appreciation, people were selling in 2 years, 3 years, making a lot of money. But it's very important as an agent that I'm setting expectations. That's not reality. In order to really benefit from selling your home and gaining a pretty substantial amount from the sale, you need time. At least, I would say anywhere from at least 5 to 7 years. Right?
Yeah, and that's the average first-time home buyer standing there for 5 to 7 years.
For sure.
So when you first got into the business 5 years ago, did you already have a clientele base? Did you decide to niche down somewhere? Like, how did you build your business?
So that's a great question. As I mentioned, we have a driving school.
Yeah.
And with this driving school, we have a pretty big following. People think it's just teaching people how to drive, but we have driver's education classroom where we have students that come in here to take driver's ed. We have driving improvement clinics every weekend, right? Classes of 20 to 30. We have re-exam courses. We have about maybe 100 people flowing through our school every month. So that right there, I targeted that niche. I said, hey, you know what? Let me help out my community. I'm already helping them out with the license procedure. How else can I add value? And just having conversations. I like I said, I believe in home ownership. I truly believe it could change people's lives. It changed my life personally, and I believe in it. And I really focused on the driving school, and I got a lot of business from that. Actually, I got a lot of referrals, and it worked well for me. And of course, my sphere of my close sphere. I grew up here in Loudoun County, so I'm pretty well known here, if you will. And it worked out well for me. A lot of our clients is organic, if you will.
Yeah. And when we were talking before the podcast on the gram, you were saying that you feel like the buyers have a lot of opportunity in today's market, right?
I do, which is contrary to what you hear on the news, right? They say that right now buyers are struggling, which is true. I understand mortgage rates are high, and affordability is an issue. But if you are in a position where you can afford that monthly mortgage, well, you have opportunities, because there's just less competition, right? You're in a position where you can submit an offer with an FHA loan and get that offer entertained. During the pandemic, if you're submitting an offer with an FHA loan, in most cases, the seller wasn't entertaining it, right? You can include your contingencies, home inspection, appraisal, financing. You can buy a home the right way, and which every buyer should be able to get their home inspected if you're able to. I understand in some cases if the home gets competitive, you may not be able to include a home inspection contingency. But hey, we're in a market where it's slowing down. There's less competition, and I think buyers can potentially include their contingencies, potentially seller credit, things of that sort.
I think it's interesting that we still have to frame the market like this to clients. And obviously, it's our job to explain what's going on. But I feel like COVID has such a long-lasting impact on our market and every market around the country, where sellers feel like they don't necessarily need to get their home as ready for the market as we might feel, or where they feel like they'll still have a ton of competition every single time at bat. And then where buyers are almost just like thinking that they don't realize that you don't have to be so competitive anymore, right? And I think rates going up right after the pandemic was almost the worst thing that could happen, because you had the buyers on the sideline that were just not going to pay $100,000 over list price. They didn't have the bandwidth to do that. Mm-hmm. And then when those buyers could get ready to buy, when they were able to buy, when the market corrected itself, rates went up to 7%. And so I agree with you that right now is a great time to buy, because you can get all your contingencies in the contract. VA wins again. FHA wins again. And we're getting closing costs in most cases also. And then you kind of have to sit in the, refinance seat. Like, But as long as you can afford your mortgage payment right now, you're still in good shape.
Absolutely. And I would say even sellers. Most of the time, sellers turn out to be buyers. So you're in a position where you can sell your home and purchase a home as well, right? Now,
you can still walk away with a good amount of money.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm really interested. So you're from Virginia. How did you end up? I'm really interested in the West Virginia market because my wife and I own our house. We have one house, and I told you we were going to sell. We rented it, so now it's an investment property, and we're preparing to buy our family home, forever home, out in Fredericksburg. And after that, I'm like, okay, it's time to build retirement, which for me is going to be real estate. For us, is going to be real estate, and I think that I'm first focusing on cash flow, and then maybe I'll get some, more multifamily or equity properties. And so I'm interested in Ohio as a market. The market in Ohio is similar to Baltimore, where you can get a house, $50,000 to $100,000, put 20% down, $700, $800 cash flow, right? But it's more landlord friendly in Ohio. But someone mentioned West Virginia to me, and I've been kind of considering it for a long time. And then a second person told me, West Virginia is going to look like Montgomery County in 10 years. And you do a lot of business there. So can you break down what's happening in West Virginia right now?
Yeah, so I've been licensed now in West Virginia. I want to say I'm just about to hit 2 years being licensed in West Virginia, but I have been doing a lot of business in West Virginia. And I grew up here in Fairfax County. I lived there until I was about 12. I ended up moving to Loudoun County, and I've been in Loudoun County for the last 20 years. And I've seen, as you yourself, you're here from Northern Virginia, you've seen the growth. You've seen Arlington, the demographics of Arlington have changed. It's a city. It pushed all the way to Loudoun County. Loudoun County now in Ashburn, you have the Metro in Ashburn. And what's happening is the demographics in Ashburn are changing. It's becoming more expensive. People are getting pushed out further out west. Leesburg, start off with Leesburg. Leesburg is changing as well. Percival is changing, it's becoming more expensive. And what's happening? You have a lot of first-time home buyers are now looking in Charlestown, in Ranson, right? Ranson, Charlestown is about 30 minutes, 35 minutes from Western Loudoun County. It's now, you're right off of 9. You got people even from Maryland moving out to Charlestown, Ranson, because right off of 9, it's not too bad. I mean, all things considered, right? If you're going out there purchasing your primary residence, property taxes are cheaper. Your money goes a long way. Even the cost of living, right? Even I was actually at a grocery store. I stopped by at a farmer's market. Not a grocery store, farmer's market. And I'm starting to load up this cart. And I'm thinking, oh man, this was not the plan. I'm about to spend $70 here, right? I just came here to grab and then $35. I said, 35. I said, hey, did you get that? They said, no, yeah, we got it, $35, right? The cost of living is just cheaper, so people are willing to consider that, right? And you're seeing first-time home buyers now starting to entertain Charlestown, Ranson. They're sacrificing that drive, but for the life that appeals them, right? Having that nice yard, having that garage, having that square footage in your home. Even homeowners that are looking to downsize, right? Hey, you know what? I have a lot of cash. I don't want a mortgage. Let's see how it's looking out there in Charlestown, Ranson, right? Harper's Ferry, and there's a lot to do out there. You got the Shenandoah River. You have the casinos. You have all these big companies moving out there. You got Starbucks, Walmart. People have a misconception when you hear West Virginia, there's nothing around. Nah, it's growing. It's growing. I do believe it's going to become similar to Loudoun County, right? You said Frederick, Maryland. I'm not too familiar with that market. My brother's an agent there, but I definitely see Charlestown, Ranson, Jefferson County as an appreciation play. However, you asked me how do I feel as an investment? Something to keep in note for all investors or anyone considering West Virginia: when you are purchasing an investment property in West Virginia, those cheap property taxes that I mentioned, they double. They're twice as much
for an investment property.
Yep, and rents aren't as high as they are in Loudoun County, Fairfax County.
So wait, let me understand, because maybe I'm missing something. Are you saying in general, when you buy an investment property, your taxes are higher?
Correct.
Or just in West Virginia, that's the case?
No. If you're buying a property in West Virginia as an investment, the property taxes are going to be twice as much. If it's your primary residence, you will get it. You'll get that nice cheap property tax that I've been talking about.
That's crazy. Do you know why that is?
I do not know why that is.
What a policy to put in. I mean, it's interesting because they're kind of, you're pushing investors. You're keeping investors somewhat out of the market. When you're doubling property taxes. But I guess if they're low, whatever. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but I know in Virginia it's around 1%, right? DC, it's like a little under 1%. So a $400,000 house in West Virginia, where are taxes typically?
You know what? Like I said, it's a New York market. I want to say 0.7. You know,
so a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
So we'll double up.
Don't hold me to that though.
Yeah, don't hold them to that.
Yeah,
actually look it up and tell us what it was,
do
right?
Due diligence.
Comment.
But they are much lower. They are much lower in West Virginia. Again, if it's your primary residence, if you are, and I found this how actually, because I had a client of mine that was looking to submit an offer on a property.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing here, wow, these property taxes are extremely high. I can eyeball and tell they're higher than what it should be for the square footage of that home and the location. And I reach out to the agent, hey, what's going on here with the property taxes? Yeah, it was an investment property, so your client will have to pay the property taxes at this amount for the first year. However, after the second year, they will be half of that amount.
Oh, okay. So it's a kind of like an entry fee, like that first year it doubles, and then after that,
this is for primary buyer.
Oh, for primary buyer.
Right?
Okay.
So the primary buyer will have to eat up those higher taxes for the first year.
Yeah. So do you feel like West Virginia is a good market to invest in? Like as an investor, would you suggest people invest in that market?
I think if you're able to, everyone's situation is different. Everyone has different goals, right? When people are talking about investing, well, it depends. You have investors that are simply looking at cash flow.
Yeah,
right?
So let me ask that question different, right? Is it a cash flowing market?
It's not a cash flowing market because rents are just not where they are here in Loudoun County, Fairfax, right? It's just, you're not going to get what you're looking at. You're not going to get the same kind of rents that you're getting in more expensive markets.
Yeah.
Right? But again, you got cheaper price points. So if you're able to buy some of these cheaper homes cash, right, and you got cash investors, because there are investors investing in Ranson, right, in certain communities I know there, but they're paying cash for them.
Okay, but it's more of an appreciation market.
It's an appreciation play. I do think it's an appreciating market.
Yeah. Okay, so you definitely need to get out there soon.
Yeah, look. There's those investors that don't believe in investing in appreciation, and I understand, right? Because you can say in a way it is a gamble, but with that being said, you don't gain true wealth by just cash flow, right?
No.
Even $400 a month. I mean, that's great.
You need to have a lot of those.
You need a lot of those, right? Yeah. But if you get one property that pays well, right? You did your due diligence. You're looking at where all these other companies are, like, for example, Starbucks, right? When you see Starbucks moving into an area in Charlestown, that's a good news, right? That's a good sign because they have their guys, right? Their analytics that are doing their due diligence, and they know where the next city is going to grow, right? Where the next boom is, if you will.
Starbucks, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's.
You got it.
I even think Target. If Target is going somewhere, there's gonna be vibes there.
Definitely.
So you have three properties. You own three properties, it sounds like?
No, so I had two properties. I had two properties. I just sold. You know, we could talk about it, actually. We bought our first primary back in 2016.
That's the one in Stafford, right?
Yeah, that one is in Leesburg. I bought that with my wife. And it's funny because when we bought it, we weren't really aware of what we were doing at the time. But when we bought it, we were able to get our closing costs paid for, right? We were first-time home buyers. This was at the time where I wasn't in a financial state like I am now. I'm doing much better financially, of course, right? I was young. We're talking about 9 years ago, right? So I came a long way since then. So we purchased this home. We rented out the rooms, actually, right? One of them was my brother. Another one is actually the fighter I trained that we were talking about earlier, right? Now it's very well known, house hack. Right? I was house hacking before it was a thing. I didn't, now we've all heard of the word house hacking. You're buying a property, you're renting out the rooms for cash, essentially lowering your monthly expenses. So we were house hacking without realizing it, and we did this for quite some time. Eventually, we ended up purchasing another property here in Percival. We've been in Percival now for 3 years. We ended up having that as a rental, and it did well as a rental for the first year and a half. We did our due diligence. We screened our tenants. Unfortunately, tenants stopped paying. Property got destroyed. So we learned a lot through that process, right? We had to put a lot of money to get the property back in shape. We did end up selling the property, which I'm still happy about, even though it was bittersweet because it was our first home. Again, we bought it back in 2016. Appreciated a ton, paid off a ton. We were able to take advantage of the primary capital gains exclusion, right? So that's really, that's not talked about enough, right? The fact that you don't pay, you pay.
So elaborate on that.
Let's just talk about that. So when you are selling your primary residence, you're excluded from paying $250,000 if you're a single owner, right? In my case, I was married with my wife. So $500,000 of profit that you're making from the sale, tax-free. That's huge.
If
That's
you
huge.
lived in it for 2 of 5 years.
If it was your primary residence for the last 2 out of 5 years. So the reason why we decided to sell was because we were approaching that mark, right? We had it as an investment property, and we said, hey, we have to, if we want to sell, it's probably best we sell now so we still within this exclusion. And that's why we ended up selling.
So you know what I'm struggling with my house in D.C.?
Yeah.
So we bought it for $490 in 2021.
Okay.
And if you look at the comps, it's $615, $625.
Yeah.
I even had a couple. I was like, really? And so I had a couple agents run comps for me, and they were like, yeah, you're like $615, $625. But we're in D.C. Our house is in D.C. in Southeast, in the Hillcrest neighborhood. In the southeast side of D.C., I would say everywhere in D.C., but a lot of buyers that are buying east of the river are taking advantage of HPAP. HPAP is the Home Purchasers Assistance Program, and they give up to $202,000 for down payment assistance.
Wow.
And a lot of people east of the river take advantage of that program. And so we put our house on the market. I think I put it on for $625 at first, $615. It just didn't sell. We didn't get any showings. It just wasn't selling. We have like updated kitchen, like it's a vibe in there, And I think because at that time HPAP had ran out of money, so they weren't funding. So maybe it was like bad market timing. But we bought for $490, and our balance is lower right now. But we could sell in the 600s ideally. And I'm like, this is gonna turn. We're renting it right now. We're getting like a few $100s cash flow, but we rent it for like $3,200. And so I'm like, well, if you kept this property, so what I'm struggling with personally is like, okay, we can keep this property forever, 25 years, hold it, right? And here's our first, $4,000 a month, for retirement, like rent for retirement,
Absolutely.
like that's gonna come in, right? Okay. But then I'm like, okay, we lived in it from 2021 to 2024, so we have a window in which we can avoid capital gains taxes. But if I sell it and we can net 100, I feel like I can do so much more with that 100 that is more valuable than holding it for 25 years to make $4,000 later,
Yeah.
And so that's the conversation I'm constantly battling in my head. My wife's like, let's sell it. I don't want the house anymore. And I'm like, but we have to buy something if we sell it,
Yeah.
So when you sold that property, did you feel like you netted enough money to buy? I mean, you owned this since 2016, so you were able to get that COVID market appreciation too. Are you going to make a play with that money, or is it just in the cut? Like, how did you guys come to that decision? Because it sounded like the bad tenant experience kind of exhausted you a little bit. You're like, let's sell that, But what are you guys making a play with that?
So let me first. I'm going to go ahead and say I was having those same conversations as you were having, right? Same conversations. We had a substantial amount of equity.
Yeah.
We even during when my tenants weren't paying, we were still paying. We had enough in reserves, which is very important, guys. If you are considering turning your property into primary residence, you want to make sure you have enough in reserves to handle those rainy days. So we were fine. We're in Virginia. It's a landlord-friendly state. We went through the process. It was very clean, clean for what it was, right? It's still, no one likes to have an eviction, right? No one likes to have their property thrashed. But it was a very clean process. And but I was having those same conversations. And we had enough where I said, hey, listen, we already purchased the property, by the way. So we purchased the property. We had a property in Percival while we were dealing with this rental, right? Where we were trying to navigate and see how we can do with this rental. So we ended up selling it. And now we're considering we have now just the same conversation you're having now. Well, now we have a home here in Percival. And our next thought is, well, we can now purchase another primary residence, use some of that proceeds, keep some left over, right? Because it was still a substantial amount that you got from the sale, and now we have our current property that we will have for retirement, whatever the case may be, or whatever we do. Maybe 15 years later down the road, we decide to sell it and we keep those. We pay those taxes, no big deal, but we have options now. So we're actually just like yourself. We went through something similar, right? And we're happy with our decision. So we're going to end up possibly looking to purchase. We have a current home right now in Percival. We are looking to purchase another one maybe this year. if we find the right property right now, it's really coming down to finding the right one. We're still kind of back and forth of where exactly it is that we want to purchase. But yeah, we ended up selling because we felt that we can benefit more from the cash. We can use it. We can buy 2 properties if we like, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. Invest some in the stock market, things of that sort.
Okay. What I always like to ask people though is like, do you niche down somewhere? Like, do you niche down? Are you like buyer heavy, listing heavy? Are you certain lead gen source? I mean, it sounds like you're in your sphere. Do you niche down in the marketplace at all?
That's a great question. So I consider myself a hybrid agent where we service all price points. Mm-hmm. We work with sellers, we work with buyers, we work with first-time home buyers, we work with investors. We've done 1031 tax exchange. We sold properties in the millions. I've sold a manufactured home, right? So I consider myself a hybrid agent, and I take pride in that, right? That I'm able to touch certain different niches, and I have the resources, right? If I don't pretend to know what I don't know. If there's something or an obstacle that presents itself, I do have the resources to find those answers.
Okay, cool. And so what do you think home buyers and home sellers need to know in the marketplace right now?
I'd say that you have to know your market, right? You have to know the market that you're looking to purchase in. Whether that is in Prince William County, whether that's in Fairfax, whether it's in Loudoun County, start to know your market, start to understand your market, right? If there's certain neighborhoods, maybe you have plans to buy in 6 months from now or plans to sell 6 months from now. Start to learn that market, check out inventory, because that will give you a good gauge of how you can approach that particular market, because every market is different, right? In Charlestown, Ranson, going back to West Virginia, you have a lot more options. There's more inventory. There's new construction. There's lenders paying your closing costs, right? There's it's called the West Virginia Housing Development Fund, where they'll give you an $8,500 second and that it is the second. You do got to pay that back, but it's 2% interest rate, right? So it's a great product. My point is understand your market. There's certain markets that are still hot, right? It just is what it is. If a house is priced well and it's marketed well, it's still could very well receive multiple offers. So every market is different. Every market is different. So know your market.
Yeah. And then what about sellers?
Sellers. Again, I'd say the same thing, right? Sellers. If you are well, that's actually let me tweak that. If you are a seller, it's not the pandemic. Right? It's not the pandemic. We're not going through that pandemic phase anymore, right? You do have to market your property. You do have to make sure that you're getting professional photography, right? Not with your iPhone, right? You want to make sure that you are doing everything in your power to get the property market ready, right? Show it the best you possibly can, because you have to work to sell around this time, right? It's not what it once was. But again, it's what we want to see. We want to see a normal market. We want to see the market normalize. We don't want it sounds good in theory, oh yeah, my house got under contract after just a couple of days on the market, but we want a healthier market. So, and I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a healthier market.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, absolutely,
This was great. Where can the people find you? How do they get in contact?
You can reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram is, I hope I don't throw you off there, but it's Matthew_Abregu. So I do post videos on my stories on YouTube as well. You can just search up my name, Matthew Abregu. You'll see my videos there. I'm always sharing my takes.
Dope, man. Thanks for joining me, bro. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, bro.